Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Black Student Athlete Summit Reflections video podcast edition. My name is Oliver Moe, and I work as a coordinator here for the Cooper Athletics Leadership Program at Georgetown University Athletics. The Cooper Athletics Leadership Program is committed to advancing growth and development opportunities for the Georgetown athletics community. And in light of this, for the past several years, our program has sponsored the cause for several student athletes to attend the annual Black Student Athlete Summit hosted by the University of Texas at Austin. This year, the event was held virtually in early January, and we sent 17 people total, our largest ever contingent. But just as we have sent people to the summit, we've also helped create spaces for attendees to share their experiences and reflections afterwards during Black History Month. This year's Reflections event is this video podcast where you'll hear from the student athletes who attended the summit. This is an unscripted discussion and will give you all an opportunity to hear from the student athletes as they reflect on the summit and their own experiences at and beyond Georgetown. So with that said, I'm really happy to pass it over to our student athletes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Deandre Bariff. I am a junior in the McDonough School of Business at Georgetown University. I'm also on the men's sprint track and field team at Georgetown. I'm currently majoring in sports management in the business school, hoping to be a sports agent when I graduate. I'd say my biggest takeaway from the summit had to have been just like taking care of yourself, mental health to be specific, especially in these times during COVID where we're not aware of everything that's going to be done to ensure that as athletes we can compete at the highest level and be safe at the same time. I feel like that plays a huge role in taking care of our mental health because in order to compete at the high level, our mental health needs to be at its highest as well. And I feel like the Black Athletic Summit really emphasized those things and really instilled in our heads that that is one thing that we need to be conscious of every time we compete or every time we're like just sitting around thinking about things. Not to bottle up any negative energy that we might feel. Always try to find somebody to talk to, talk it out with, let them know how you're feeling, whether it's your coach or your peers. And yeah, I feel like the summit really emphasized that piece. And they emphasized other pieces as well, but that is one piece that definitely stuck with me because personally I know I think about a lot of things and I sometimes tend to overthink things. So if I'm thinking about it by myself, I need somebody to, talk it out with and it'll make me feel better in the long run.
Hi, my name is Sarah Hereton. I'm a senior at Georgetown University, and I am also a member of the Georgetown men's basketball team. I'm originally from Michigan, but I am currently studying international politics at the Walsh School of Foreign Service. Throughout my time at the Black Student Athlete Summit, I had the opportunity to engage in meaningful dialogue. And at the end of every day, my peers and I gathered together and reflected upon the events of that day. In these reflections, we came up with phrases. I want to share some of those phrases with you guys today and explain their connection to me and my experience as a Black student athlete. The first is know your worth. A lot of times, student athletes are told it's a privilege to be at their institution. And I think that's true. But sometimes in that phrase, what gets lost in translation is the value that we as student athletes add to our environment. We contribute both athletically and academically, but more importantly, just as people, in the interactions we have with other people in our community, and the way in which we shape our institutions for the better, so that student athletes that come after us have an even better experience than we have. I think it's especially important to recognize our value as Black people, because it's not only in the student athlete realm in which we need to be advocates for ourselves. That's a process that's going to continue for the rest of our lives. The second phrase is lead from where you are. It's easy to get caught up in titles, whether it be captain, coach, whatever that may be. But the reality is, no matter your title, no matter your position, you are a leader. And you can be that. It doesn't have to be in a traditional way. Everyone leads differently. But it's important to always be a role model for those around you and to continue to lead no matter what seat you're sitting in. The last phrase is continue to be a student and respect what those around you add to your community. I think it's important to always remember that growth is a lifelong process. And this summit really highlighted that for me. Hearing from people who had reached high levels in their career, still talking about what they can still learn and still grow in, was inspirational to me. It was also great to hear about the way that they value those in their community, no matter how small the contribution is, because they recognize that if you're a part of an environment, any way that you behave and you act has a contributing factor in the end product of your group.
Hi, my name is Ruth Kayongo. I'm a freshman in the women's volleyball program. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I'm studying human science on the pre-med track in the NHS. I attended the Black Student Athlete Summit, and it gave me the opportunity to connect with other student athletes, to learn from influential leaders, and to be inspired to create social change. As student athletes, we are encouraged to perform well in the classroom and on the court. The Black Student Athlete Summit encouraged me to believe that we are more than just athletes. We have the ability to use our platforms to advocate for change. One thing that I took from the summit is that you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. For some, it's not easy to speak out on topics because it's out of your comfort zone. However, it is important that you make use of your platform and make sure people are aware of issues within our communities.
Hi, my name is Chelsea Smith. I'm from Connecticut, and I'm a senior track and field athlete at Georgetown studying justice and peace in the college. The session that resonated with me the most at the Black Student Athlete Summit was actually the first session with speaker Jason Ferguson. Jason spoke about failure and how it was a recurring theme in his life journey, and how he used failure to fuel him in reaching his potential in his sport and in life. My main takeaways from his session and the entire summit is to learn how to be okay with failure and to use that lesson and use it to your advantage. As a Georgetown student, we often hold ourselves to higher standards, and as student athletes, even higher expectations. These expectations are sometimes not met, which can really impact our mental health and prevent us from setting new marks and goals. This is something that I've gone through and has really impacted my time here. At a point, my fear of failure led me to believe that I wasn't as fit for the school as I thought I was, and that I was in over my head. But within that time in my life, failure gave me the opportunity to reflect on my mental health, academic, sport, and to practice positivity. It took a lot of mental strength for me to pick myself back up and to keep moving forward, but at the same time, it changed my perspective and overall outlook on life, which is an experience that I really appreciate, and it's definitely changed me for the better. During Jason's session, 2 quotes that stuck out to me the most were to run 100 miles per hour through fear and to turn failure into your superpower. This definitely reminded me of my own journey and how to put myself in uncomfortable positions and take more risks of failing in order to progress and reassess the road ahead. His story really inspired me to get after what I desire and to put myself out there, even if I don't believe in myself completely. Taking that risk sets people apart from those who end up settling and succeeding. Something that I heard and I want to resonate with others is that everyone fails and that failure is okay. It's not an end-all be-all, and it's a learning experience that you can use to your benefit if you choose to.
Hello everyone, my name is Joshua Stevens. I am a junior in the college studying sociology, minoring in theology. I'm currently on the football team playing offensive line. I really enjoy going to this, the Black Student Athlete Summit. I really hope that by the time that we all leave, by the time other Black student athletes come to Georgetown, that they'll be able to do the same things that we were able to do. I think it was such an amazing experience that I think that needs to happen at least one time, while you're in college. I think to me the meeting that was so super impactful for me, there wasn't one specifically because they're all just so amazing. But I think that the talk of mental health really shook a chord with me, and because I know that what they talked about in there is affecting all student athletes, but Black student athletes as well, especially during this time of COVID, and we have season cancellations. We had more season cancellations, especially for our team, and it was really tough, mentally, because you're coming from seeing your friends every single day in person. Now you're wearing masks. You're socially distancing. You're not really able to have that the touch of your boys and your friends and your teammates. And sadly, we didn't have that, and that took a really big mental toll on not just me, but the rest of my teammates and other sports around me. And what they really talked about was how important it is to not only talk to your sports psychologist, not only talk to friends and family around you, but to be open and honest about things that you're going through. They made such an importance on the bravery that what we do. It doesn't get talked about as much as I kind of wish it did, but the fact that we're so brave in what we do. That's whether that's going out in the field, whether that's doing something you've never done before. We're so brave for what we do, and mentally that's a big aspect of it as well. So I would say that the mental health meeting and course really was super impactful for me, as well as the people around me. Not only that, but there's so many different meetings about whether that's building culture, right? Whether that's culture in your locker room, culture on your team, and ultimately culture at your institution, here at Georgetown. And I thought that the bringing the culture aspect, and creating a space where where I feel welcome, where the people around me, feel welcome, was definitely impactful for me. I hope that we can just continue to bring that forth, right? We can continue to bring that that kind of energy. We can bring that that flair. We can bring the things that we learned to Georgetown and Georgetown athletics specifically, in order to make this a better community for everyone. Hi everyone, my name is Joshua Stevens. I'm a junior on the football team studying sociology, minoring in theology, and I'm from Florida.
Hi everyone, I'm Arilene Campos and I am a senior on the softball team. I am majoring in healthcare administration and minoring in disability studies.
Hi, my name is Sarah Hereton. I am a senior on the women's basketball team. I'm in the School of Foreign Service studying international politics, and I am originally from Michigan.
Hi everyone, I'm Deandre. I'm a junior on the track and field team. I'm in the business school majoring in business management.
Hi, my name is Ruth Kayongo. I'm a freshman on the women's volleyball team. I'm majoring in human science and the NHS, and I'm from California.
Hi everyone, I'm Chelsea Smith. I'm a senior studying justice and peace in the college, and I'm on the women's track and field team.
Thank you all for that. Yes, like I said earlier, my name is Joshua Stevens, and I'm going to be introducing kind of the topic for today. I want to welcome you guys all again, to the Black Student Athlete Summit discussion. Today we'll kind of be discussing our time at the summit, the different things that we learned, from mental health and athletics to, culture change within the university. So now I'm going to pass it on to Sarah, and she'll get us started.
Hi, everyone. Like I mentioned before, my name is Sarah Hereton. I'm a member of the women's basketball team. So the first topic we're going to start with is overcoming adversity. So as we move forward into the discussion, I'm going to kind of throw out a little bit of a question, and anyone feel free to kind of pick it up so we can do some free flow talk about our own personal experience as student athletes, as well as trying to reflect a little bit on how our experience at the summit kind of informed our experience going forward. So the first question is, what type of adversity have you faced during your time at Georgetown, or more largely as a student athlete in general? And how did you make it through that experience? So if anyone wants to take that up, go ahead. Otherwise, I can kind of jump in and get it started, but I'll leave space for anyone to jump in here.
I think for me, especially freshman year, when you first come to Georgetown, you're expecting, everyone who came to Georgetown, we were all captains, right? We were all, all state, we're all, whatever. Some of us all Americans, probably Deandre, I don't know. But when coming in, you kind of have these kind of, do you expect certain things, right? You kind of think, I'm going to be able to play immediately. I'm going to do certain things immediately. But that's kind of not how it is, when you come and play at Division I level. And that was kind of my, when I first got here, I was like, I was a wake up call for me. I'm like, I'm not playing immediately. I'm not doing certain things. So that kind of had a toll on me. I don't want to say my mental health, but I would say that I kind of doubted my abilities because I wasn't playing like I wish I was. So that's one thing. And through that, I was able to, had different discussion with teammates, family members, and coaches, which helped me kind of get through that, or kind of overcome that doubt that I was kind of going through.
Yes, I can go next. So actually, I am a transfer student. So I transferred my sophomore year, and during that year, I got really sick. Probably not going to disclose what I got because I feel like that's a bit personal. But it was really challenging for me mentally to miss my first year competing at Georgetown. I was really sick. It took an effect on my academics as well. I could not attend class for several months. And it was really hard for me. I had to switch majors because I just could not keep up with the rigorous course load. So yeah, it was a hard time for me. I had to readjust basically my whole life and what I wanted to do in that time. And what got me through that experience, I guess, was just utilizing the resources on campus. So I would often talk to my coach, Dr. Hable. I would speak to the sports psychiatrist, which really helped. And yeah, that's basically it. Just try to keep a positive attitude and be around my teammates and have them uplift me, basically.
I'm gonna piggyback off of Josh's point. I think coming here, you do realize right off the bat, like you're among kind of the best of the best, and you're not always gonna be on the field. And I think on top of that, you add an injury to that. I think having a few injuries here takes a toll on you a little bit because you don't really feel like I'm not putting in a lot to the team. Like, what can I do? But I think through that, you find that there's more to this sport than just you being on the field. There's being a teammate, there's being a mentor, there's being a leader. And I think that's kind of the power of being here. It's not just about playing, it's about what you're doing on and off the field for your teammates.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And going off of that, like coming in as a freshman, I was ready to play. I was excited, but like going into the fact that we have quarantine and you can't really be on campus and play, I think that really hit me hard. And honestly, like I've been able to find ways to contribute to the team without actually like playing, or like such as checking in on my teammates, or talking to my coach or Dr. Hable and seeing what I can do other than playing so that I can contribute to the team.
Since I've been here pretty much, I'd say something I had to get used to was being comfortable in uncomfortable situations sometimes, it helps with growth. And that's something that took me a long way here so far, and I feel like it's helped me out. And yeah.
Yeah, I think my experience was a little different in the sense as I came in as a walk-on, so I didn't have that same level of, I think maybe confidence that a lot of recruited athletes come in with. So that definitely was my biggest obstacle. I think I felt like a lot of the times I needed to prove that I was deserving of the spot instead of acknowledging that I had the abilities. And obviously, if the coaches agreed that I should be on the team, that meant already that I was deserving of that opportunity. And so that took a lot of work with me and myself, but it was definitely difficult when I got injured, because it's one thing to be a walk-on and figure out a role that's maybe not necessarily on the court, but as a teammate. But when you're not even like a part of practice anymore, that disconnect, it becomes a lot, especially when you realize that the 3 years that you spent at the university had everything to do with athletics in one way or another. Whether it be traveling, workouts, like whatever it is, it becomes a huge part of your life. So navigating the change has definitely been something difficult and challenging for me. But I think through that, I've been able to meet new people and expand my circle. And I think being open to new opportunities is kind of what's helped me through it. So I'm kind of curious from you guys, like what things leaving the summit, do you feel like what tools maybe you kind of learned to take away from that experience? Or maybe what would you like to see more of as far as support for student athletes at Georgetown?
I think for me, a big part of it was, the mental health aspect of it. and the different conversations we had about mental health. And I think, in the sport that I play, stereotypically, it's not about the mental health part of it. You need to be mentally tough, but the mental health side of things is not really, talked about as much. But I think more and more people are getting into it, which is good. And as well as our team is kind of implementing it, different ways. My coach specifically implemented with our team, with our position group. It goes to different conferences and he talks about it with us, like, what I learned from this. This is what I learned from this. And this is how you can kind of like implement into your game. Like it's like that, almost like that self-talk that Dr. Force kind of talks about. It's just like that continue uplifting yourself. And eventually, it's going to come. So I think that definitely the mental health part of it was a big factor for me.
I think for me, it's putting the person first. I feel like sometimes feels like you're here to produce. Like if I'm hurt and I'm not producing, then what are you doing? If I'm not at my best, if I'm stressed, if there's a lot on my plate, like, and I'm not producing how I'm supposed to be, like who's kind of looking out for you? And I feel like there's such a pressure to like, I have to be here. I have to be like at my 110 all the time. But it's like when you're not at your 110, it doesn't feel like sometimes you got people in your corner to like really just pull you aside and like someone check in on you and be like, hey, what's going on? And I think outside of being an athlete, it's like I'm a person before I'm that athlete. And sometimes you need to check up on me first as the individual I am, rather than just saying, oh, you're not doing what you're normally doing on the field.
For me, one of the main things I took from the summit was asking for help and not being scared to, especially when it comes to using resources that the university has available to you. I feel like a lot of athletes nowadays find that they might think they don't need attention or someone to talk to or anything like that, and they just push it aside, keep it bottled aside, and next thing you know, turns out into something else, and it could have been all avoided.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Josh. The biggest takeaway for me was the mental health aspect. I feel like track is a very mental sport, and I'm sure a lot of people can agree with that. And like Nene said about taking care of the person first, we all have our own problems outside of our sport. So kind of juggling those two identities, there's oftentimes like overlapping mental health issues that kind of need to be resolved. And I feel like the summit definitely helped me think about ways in which that I could overcome these short battles, such as like just being positive or reaching out for help, like Deandre said. Those are really important things that I took away from it.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Going off of like mental health, I feel like as athletes, we all set ourselves to a really high standard and we want to like really aim high, whether it's like achieving a goal or just going after what you want. And for me personally, being away from my sport, I've felt like I've been isolated away from what it means to like be successful, because I've always felt successful through my sport. So going into the summit, I was able to learn how to cope with not being at my best, but also taking care of myself.
Yeah, I think for me, when we discuss the mental health aspect of it, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned is being able to name the feeling that you're experiencing. I think as athletes, we're always on the go, which means a lot of times how we feel gets pushed to the side in order to get done what we need to get done. So when I said that, the summit made me really reflect and kind of realize that a lot of the reasons like I might be struggling is because I'm not dealing with things as they come. And putting a name to feelings can be so beneficial just because you understand it better and you can say it out loud rather than just feeling frustrated that you don't understand why and just trying to, push forward in spite of it. And even in the productivity piece, like I was talking to someone who wasn't an athlete and they're just a regular like college student. And they were saying, you guys always put so much weight on productivity. Like if you have a bad day, a quote unquote bad day, it's not even just like in your sport, but like in general, if you have a bad day, it's because like, oh, I didn't do this or I didn't finish that. Sometimes we don't look at good days and think, oh, well, I relaxed. It feels like you missed an opportunity. And I'm sure all of us have heard from like coaches and parents and stuff, like however many days you take off, there's someone out there getting better. And it's a good motivator, but it sometimes means that you neglect taking care of you. So I think that was a pretty powerful lesson. But I want to touch on something that Ruth kind of mentioned. Oh, Josh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. I was going to touch on something Ruth mentioned about like COVID and the whole pandemic experience that we're still very much in, but just kind of hearing from you guys, like, what has that been like navigating it, and how has it changed your experience with your sport, but also as a student?
Personally, it's been kind of hard for me. Motivational wise, running by yourself is not like fun, especially when it's like a 45-minute, 35-minute run. So it's kind of hard to just find that motivation, especially not knowing when you'll be able to actually compete. So it's like, am I doing this for no reason, you know? And also the resources that are available to us during this time are definitely limited. So it just like trumps everything.
Yeah, DeAndre, that's a great point. I mean, I know I don't run track or, you know, do all the running stuff like that, but like I know that's gotta be tough, like to have to run by yourself, and then like you were just saying, like you don't really know what you're really running for, right? You don't know when the next season's coming. You know, there's so much uncertainty with that. That's definitely tough. I could definitely see that. Like that's a great point. Like for me, we haven't had a season this fall, and then we don't have a season in the spring, and it's just like sometimes you kind of question yourself, like, you know, what am I really training for? Like what am I really lifting this weights for, right? So those thoughts definitely came to my mind, especially early in COVID, like during quarantine. Like I'm like, you know, I can't even go outside right now. I can go to the grocery store and come home. You know, it's probably even worse for you, you know, being in New York, like y'all was shut down like crazy. And so for me, it's like, man, like, oh, it was tough, but now luckily I'm here and all, but still like that brief period was really tough. Now I know not just on me, but I know tough on a lot of other people. Yeah.
Yeah, similarly to what Deandre said, it was really challenging running by yourself. Like he said, I would obviously constantly think, like, what is the point of this? But I think what really helped me to stay motivated was just to take things day by day and remember, like, why I started running track, why I enjoy it. And that made practicing a little bit better. But overall, yeah, I feel like we all had that similar feeling of, you know, what is the point? Why am I doing this? So that was challenging.
I think for me, being a senior and like we already lost our spring season last year, I feel like my motivation was kind of high because it was like I just want to get back and like play. But then I think finding out we weren't playing and opting out this spring, I think it was tough just in like identifying like who am I like beyond the sport now. And I think just being back and like under the circumstances we are, it's like it's just like a who am I question because I don't have that identity anymore. So I feel like that's been the toughest part now. Like I'm kind of we're shut down still and going through all of this.
Yeah, I think personally, it was just hard to find motivation to like do things on my own because volleyball is such like a team sport. So being able to just be on my own in practice or whether it is working out, like that was hard for me. And then just coming in and like realizing that it's not going to be the same. Like I have to do classes online and then just also like maintain my physique. So that was kind of hard for me overall.
Yeah, right around the time we got sent home, I think I was about a month out for my surgery. So I hadn't even started physical therapy yet. And then I had to go home and I didn't have access to physical therapy. And then by the time I like did and was getting back to it, I found it extremely hard to stay motivated because I wasn't doing like regular workouts. So a lot of the stuff that I was doing, it was like, oh, like this is boring. I'm trying to stay focused. But like it was difficult without knowing like when we were going to come back. And then when we did come back, I was faced with the decision on whether I wanted to come back given the uncertain situation with the pandemic or opt out. So I made the decision to opt out. And kind of like Nene mentioned, like the identity thing, like I was never a person that initially felt like my whole identity was my sport until I didn't have my sport anymore. And it wasn't like everything was gone, but I definitely realized like, wow, like this was a big part of my experience as a person. And I'm still figuring that out and still trying to like navigate that. So it's definitely been a learning and growing experience. But kind of Ruth also mentioned like the student aspect. So what does that look like for you guys? I know for me personally, it was a bit rough being at home.
Zoom is draining, honestly. For being honest, being on Zoom like 2 hour time periods every day. I don't like it, but there's nothing we could do about it. I'd say it takes away all types of interaction you have with your friends. Makes it way harder to like line up your schedule with each other because one might have class, then one might have a nap time at this time, and you're trying to figure something out, but it's kind of hard knowing that you can't just walk outside and meet up or whatever.
Yeah, I have a similar experience. It was tough studying at home a lot of the times, but I feel like it also gave me the opportunity to spend more time alone and figure out who I am, what I want to do with my life after I graduate. So I felt like that part was helpful. I kind of feel like I grew on my own in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I was always saying that like during quarantine. So I'm like, yo, whoever doesn't come back with and doesn't have a a little more of a growth mindset on things, like come on, like what were y'all really doing for the last like 6 months? Like, no, I totally agree with that. I made sure that what I was doing wasn't for nothing. I was actually like, okay, well, I have more time. I got nothing to do. I might as well read a little bit. I do something I never do. Just read a book or something like that, or look up an article and kind of like fill my head with more knowledge of something I didn't know before. Understanding more and more who I am, what I like to do, and what I want to do outside of the sport. Yeah, no, totally agree.
I completely agree with what Josh and Chelsea are saying. I think as tiring as this is, their time was still passing by, and it was like I want to make the most out of every day because it doesn't matter. Like it's 6 months. It's like, oh, I've been doing nothing. Like people were moving, and I think you had to find a way to kind of find yourself and say what is going to be my why today, whether it was learn something new in class or try to connect with someone. You just kind of had to find a reason every day to, I guess, just wake up.
Yeah, that's a very great point. I think the biggest thing that I had to deal with was just being positive every day and just finding a reason why. That was like the biggest challenge, but I also think that like making friends was really hard. Like I'd have to join clubs or get involved with certain things. Like I couldn't do it through the classroom because you're just learning and you get in, you get out. So those are like the two biggest challenges for me.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think back now. It feels so long ago now that I'm back on campus. But which is really like what, 3 weeks. I think the biggest thing for me was like scheduling. I was very used to having a really rigorous schedule. And once I was in control of my own schedule, there was a brief period where I was like, you are not getting anything done. So I had to kind of readjust, and which I think was a good lesson for me to learn now as opposed to after I graduate, and the consequences are a little steeper. But kind of what Chelsea and Josh both mentioned, like the idea of growing. I think mine was a little different. Like I had more time, so I was like, okay, you can actually relax for once, and not be like feel guilty. I think we all have that in us as athletes. You feel guilty when you're not doing something because you're like, oh, I could be doing this or I could be doing that. So I think that was probably the most beneficial part of all of this. But now that we've kind of touched on a few of like the adversities, what we've learned and things like that, are there things that you guys feel like from the summit that you can bring back to your team as it relates to like overcoming adversity?
When it comes to like the pandemic, I just say be optimistic. Just like never lose hope, I guess, because at that one point when you lose hope, then that's when things start to really crumble and you overthink and a lot of other stuff can happen. It could go wrong.
Yeah, I think I would definitely still bring the mental health aspect to my team. As I mentioned, like track is a very mental sport. So just being positive, I feel like has an effect on a lot of people, way more than you might think. So I just feel like, making my teammates aware of the resources that we have on campus if they aren't already aware of them. And like I said, just maintaining a positive attitude and being optimistic, I think that would go a long way.
I have to agree with Chelsea for my team too. I think the mental health aspect is huge. Just realizing like, hey, we can take care of ourselves, and you should take care of yourself first. I think on top of that, just being grateful for every opportunity we have. I think we've already lost so much, and I think now moving forward, just be grateful to whether it's be at the field or wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go lift, because it's already been taken away, and I don't think we all want to do that again.
Yeah, I think for me personally, because my situation is like a little different, I've kind of had to navigate that, still being a part of the team and with the department, but not competing. So I think the one thing that I've definitely learned is like lead from where you are. So like I may not be with them in practice every single day, but I can still be a good friend. And like right now, that might mean more to them than me even like being there. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've tried to take back and like share with some of my teammates is that you may not be in the best ideal situation right now, but that doesn't mean you still can't be impactful, and like don't take yourself for granted.
Yeah, I definitely want to go off Sterry and Deandre's point about Deandre talked about being optimistic, and that's a big part of this too. It has like kind of half battle is being like, yo, like we having having a positive mindset about things. But Sari, I think you hit on the head too about you talk about leading from where you are. I think it's something that we learned is that like the leadership aspect of it. And I in this moment right now, football, being on campus, not being able to have access to our different facilities, having to kind of lift, whether that's lifting off campus or let's say working out off campus. It's tough because you have to kind of go out your way to do something that, you don't really see, you don't really know when it's going to happen. Right. And with that, that's a big part of that is that leadership aspect, is that kind of, that servant leadership, kind of like serving others, helping others, like, hey, like, we're gonna like that's whether that's going to someone's house today, hey, 6 a.m. let's go work out, like that, the little things like that kind of help grow a team, right? That helps kind of build that culture, almost. So I think that definitely like that idea of leading from where you are, leading by just doing, whether that's a small thing or that's a big thing, like bringing someone with you. It's nothing crazy, but it just can go such a long way.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I think just finding someone who is as ambitious as you and like who truly cares about, going after what you want, I think that can go a long way, and it'll encourage you to, strive for the best.
Okay, I think we should take the opportunity to kind of move forward a little bit into our next topic of discussion. But I want to thank you guys for being like vulnerable and open with your experiences. So the second thing we're going to talk about is about getting the most out of your institution. So to kind of open it up, maybe like what does that look like for you guys? Like what does it look like to get the most out of your time at Georgetown?
I would definitely say using the resources that we have available to us. For a long time, I never heard about like the Quality Career Center, And my coach is gonna be mad if he watches this. He's gonna be mad because he talks about it all the time. But I didn't realize, I'm like, this is a gym. Like it's free counseling. It's free helping you like build your resumes. They help you figure out what you want to do like job wise. To help you with like, you want to go to grad school, like talk to them. They'll help you like guide you along that way. And it's using little resources like that are given to us for free. And that's the key word, is free. Because outside of here, it's not going to be free, right? People are going to charge you, like consultants, all that stuff. But it's so nice using that different resources like that, as well as alumni too. We have had different alumni come in and talk to us and say, hey, like hook you up with the job or with the internship, like just talk to me, email me. And being active, I think that's a big part of it, is being active in that and not just kind of sitting back and saying, let it come to you. Sometimes you have to go out and get it. You have to go out, you have to reach out to the alumni. You have to, make sure you're having a LinkedIn account. You have to make sure you're getting in contact with different people that, your team, your coaches are saying to get in contact with, because they're just everyone's all here to help you. Every alumni, they're it's Hoya for Hoya. Like, we're all here to help you out. So I think using those, whether it's your colleague career center or it's alumni, they're just all here to help you.
Yeah, well said, Josh. I think you really hit the nail on the head there. And I don't think there's much more I can add. But yeah, I definitely feel like just being active, like Josh said, is really an important part. The resources are available to everyone, and it's your choice on whether or not you can utilize that. So I feel like what Josh said again, being very active and just doing everything that you can to communicate with alumni, your professors, your fellow students, can really set you up to be in a good position.
Yeah, I think the professors and the peers piece is really key. I think a lot of times, like in our classes, we encounter professors that have either been in positions we want to be in or currently are in positions professionally that we want to be in. And it can get difficult. Sometimes you get caught up in like your day-to-day schedule and you forget that your professor is a great like networking resource. But not only that, like your peers too. Like, we are fortunate to attend a university where a lot of future leaders in different fields are also alongside with us, including us. We are obviously leaders as well. So I think it's like important to take advantage of getting to know your peers, like, friends wise, but also like for networking resources, because you never know what that means like down the road as well. So if there's nothing that anyone else wants to add, so this was a big topic in the summit, just this conversation about getting the most out of your institution, particularly as Black athletes and athletes of color. A lot of times we're utilized by the institution, and not everyone gets the opportunity to make the most out of their time. So I kind of want to know, like, how do you think we as athletes can help our peers navigate Georgetown from a level maybe as an upperclassman to an underclassman, or giving more information to transfers and things like that? Like, how do you guys think we can take this lesson and implement it within our own teams and community?
For me, I just feel like it's being available and being prepared to be used as a resource to your teammates. For me, like I mentioned, I was a transfer student, so I feel like I came into the university very underprepared. I was pretty much lost my first semester. I had no idea what I was doing, no idea who to talk to. So every time that I meet new teammates, I always try to tell them, the things that I wish I knew when I came in. So I just feel like just making them more aware of the opportunities that they have, or really motivating them or pushing them to actually utilize those tools will really help them navigate and find themselves and find out what they want to do and really be successful at Georgetown.
I feel like for me, I'd really just emphasize getting out of the athletic bubble, whether that's going to your dean, going to just events and looking more towards your academic side of things. I feel like sometimes we're just so in the same kind of circle, but once you get out, there's like opportunities out there, and there's people out there willing to kind of help you, whether it's like Josh said, like help you with your resume, or hey, these are the classes you should take, or what else do you want to do, and kind of find things that you like just beyond what you're majoring in, whether it's trying to get a minor or something. There's so many things. I think I found out later that I was like, oh, I didn't even know I could do that. So I think just really trying to get outside of that athletic bubble from the start and looking more towards the academic side.
Yeah, I think that in my previous experience, it's like don't take for granted the information that you have. Because once you're here, like after about a year, you kind of just start to assume like everyone knows like X, Y, and Z. But then every year I was always reminded with the freshmen, like, oh, right, like I had to learn where these things were. And I had help like figuring that out. So I think that's like super important, pretty much what Chelsea is saying, like just making yourself available to those people. And Ruth, if you don't mind me asking, like since you are one of the only freshmen here right now, what I guess maybe what kind of support are you looking for going forward, or what support like have you received, especially in these times that you've found especially useful?
I would say support from my coach, especially because he's been like really helpful through this time. And Dr. Havel as well. Like she's been checking in and making sure that um I'm like where I am, where I need to be. Um, or like going into like what I need, um, I would say just guidance and like workouts, especially because like right now we're in a time where, we're trying to be able to be like um prepared for season, even though we don't know when season is. So like preparing ourselves for whatever is supposed to come, like through games and stuff.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Go ahead, Josh.
Yeah, and with that, yeah, I going off of that too. I know for me, when I was like younger, not younger, I'm so old now. When I was first coming in, first year, second year, I the seniors and like the juniors or whatever above me were very influential. Like once like I became like one of the older, when I became an upperclassman, junior now, I'm still able to reach out to like the upperclassmen, like Leon, people like Ahmad, who kind of show like say, hey, well, don't forget about this resource too, and don't forget about this other resource that you can use, and also don't forget about me because I got you. I have plenty of like more knowledge I can help you along the way with, that I didn't know when I was your age and now when I was in your year, that I can help you out with. So super important with like the older guys, kind of leading the way with that.
Yeah, I think that's really key. And then when it comes to like, I feel like administration too and staff members, like I think they also play an important role. Kind of like what Ruth mentioned, just having the support of like her coach and like Dr. Habel, like it's going to be crucial. And I also think like it's important for those people to make themselves accessible. So a lot of athletes sometimes end up being involved in athletic administration like later down the road. So like having the opportunity to like meet with your athletic director and get to know them and like figure out what the job is day to day, like that could be extremely useful to a lot of different athletes. So does anyone else have anything they want to add before we kind of move on to our next little section? All right, silence, love it. Next part, so we're going to talk a little bit about social change. This was the theme, I think, of the conference, especially given what the Black community has experienced this past summer, which is just a continuation of centuries of oppression. But we want to talk about social change in our environment. So first and foremost, what does it mean to advocate for yourself, and what do you think it means to advocate for others?
For me, I feel like to advocate for yourself is to basically just put yourself out there and really try and seek help and guidance from everyone around you. I feel like asking for help and going out of your way to be knowledgeable or learn more about certain things can really set you up to be in a good position. And for others, I feel like pretty much the same thing, like going out of your way to help one of your teammates with something, speaking up for somebody when they might not want to say something or mention anything to an older person, anybody in particular. So yeah.
I feel like for me, after everything that's gone on, I feel like it's important to talk about things. I think a lot of things kind of just don't get addressed, especially amongst, I guess, being a person of color. And I think there's stories that some of our teammates don't know or experiences we've faced that they don't know about. And I think talking about it and educating them, giving resources to educate them, and constantly keeping that conversation alive to see how we can better ourselves as a team. So then, I don't know, after that, like it spreads out, like they may go talk to somebody else and then that keeps spreading. And I think that's one way we can slowly create change, by just spreading love and educating people on what exactly it is that is going on in the world.
I think something we talked about earlier about, kind of knowing the self, knowing, kind of know thyself. I think that's a big part of, being able to advocate for yourself, being advocate, for yourself, for your people, saying, I am a hard worker. Like I will do this. I will, follow through with this. So I think that's big, like being able to know yourself before you can kind of advocate for yourself, right? And advocate for the people around you, advocate for your teammates, advocate for your team, building them up, within your tight knit community, within your specific community, within your team. So yeah.
Yeah, Josh, I definitely agree. I think going along with that, it's like knowing your worth. So like if you know yourself and you know what you can do, like you won't be afraid to advocate for yourself and have those tough conversations with people that are in position of power. And I think that's really important for you to advocate for yourself, but as well for you to advocate for others. I think a big problem is a lot of times as athletes, we're told like it's a privilege to be where we are. And that's true. I think it's a privilege to receive an education and have the opportunity to play with a team, but that doesn't mean it's a one-way street. Like it's not just the university giving you something. You also give a lot back to your university. And that means you have like the right to advocate for a certain level of treatment or whatever it means that's going to be able to take you on to that next step. Because the reality is once we graduate and we're impactful in our communities, like that's beneficial for the Georgetown name going forward.
And I think that it can even like go further than, we talked about our teams, ourselves, the university, but also like outside of, kind of the front gates, for the community, right? For the DC community. I think that's an important thing to that we need to continue to do is, not only educate ourselves in, where we are, but also, have a love for where we are, right? And being able to advocate for the people in our community, that they're not just, people across the Potomac or people across the river, like, but, they're all of us, they're Washingtonians, they're people like us.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Georgetown name carries a lot of weight, and we as athletes have the power to bring attention to issues that maybe no one else is paying attention to. And I think that within itself, like kind of like Nene already mentioned, like being able to spread knowledge about things. So even if that means going to volunteer with an organization and shedding light on a specific issue, like that matters. And so I think it's important that we as athletes also push our own programs to recognize like, hey, this is an important issue for me, and I want our program, to represent this value, because as much as we represent the university vice versa also represents us when we're here working for them. So that kind of moves me into like another aspect of this. We've had a lot of conversations within the department about allyship. And something at the end of the summit we talked about is white allyship and, having a conversation around that. And the biggest thing they asked at the end was that we as Black, Indigenous, people of color kind of need to figure out what does being an ally look like for us, so that way we're better able to advocate for that, support that experience. So what does that mean to you guys? Like, what does allyship look like for you?
I think it looks like for me is being willing to listen, but also being willing to act. Being in lastly is really being, loving me for who I am. I think my position coach, Coach, shout out to you. I remember when a lot of stuff was going on, earlier this year or earlier last year, and he kind of brought me aside. He was like, "Hey, like, talk to me, like, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? I want to learn. Help me understand this. Even though I won't necessarily be able to understand it, but like, let me empathize with you." But also, he was like, I'm going to do anything I can." We started going to different conferences and starting to hear different talks, read different books, and educating himself on what, on kind of like how my life, as like as Sarah was saying, like as in the BIPOC. So I think for him, it's just like being active in it, right, and not just kind of sitting on the sidelines, but actually doing the things that help him grow as a person, as a human, but also like help him understand me more and what I'm going through.
I think Josh mentioned such a great point. I think it's action. I think we're at a time right now where you can't stay quiet. I think the only way that change is going to come about is if we continue, like Sir, you were saying, like pushing, like, hey, this is what matters. This is why it's important. I think we have to act. People have to speak up on things. They have to listen. They have to be willing to get educated, and they have to do things that may be uncomfortable, but it's like you need to speak out. And like Josh said, you have to love me for me. Like, so speak out for your teammates, speak out for people you care about, because that's right now who's going through it and has continued to go through it through all these years. And it's time, like it's enough. And the only way it's going to stop is if people act up.
Yeah, I definitely think for me, an ally is someone who can be very powerful, because the reality is, with the way systemic racism is, it bars people from being in certain spaces, which means the stories, our stories and our experiences are never heard and never really contemplated. So I think the power of an ally is someone who's able to go into that space and to advocate for us, but at the same time recognizes the time when it should be the Black person who's speaking on their own experiences, like knows the boundaries and knows the lines, but on top of that is willing to educate themselves. Like, conversations are great, but in reality, it can't just be me telling you, because I'm only one Black person and my experience is mine, and that doesn't speak for all of us. We're all different. We all have different backgrounds. So someone who's willing to educate themselves, speak up when necessary, and take a step back when necessary too, is what a good ally really looks like for me.
Okay, so if no one has anything else to say, I would like to wrap up the podcast here. I just want to thank everyone for participating, and I want to thank Sari for being a great discussion leader and Josh for co-moderating with me. So this has been great, and I hope to speak with you all soon.